if there are not any other questions, then we will go on, which I think is a nice pairing between this update, this specific update, and then our next presentation on the Healthy Kids Survey, which I think will dovetail, I'm assuming, nicely into this conversation around all the different ways that kids learn and all the different supports and what things that impact student learning. So looking forward to hearing the Healthy Kids Survey update. Right. We've been waiting for this. We've been hearing about it. We've been hearing about it
with bated breath. And the last public data that we have from Ross Valley is from 2015-16. So I'm immensely proud of the effort for our 5th grade and 7th grade teams, administrators, teachers, and parents who gave their consent to have our students take part in this. And I'm also super proud to have our colleagues from White Hill Middle, Autumn Arbery, Michelle Pelton joining us. They are the bedrock of the wellness program at White Hill Middle. And I'm going to, if you wouldn't mind, Marcy, I will share my screen.
Yep, absolutely, go ahead.
The California Healthy Kids Survey that we just administered, mostly in the late March through the month of April. Really proud to do that. And so tonight's presentation that I'm sharing with Autumn and Michelle, I just want to emphasize it really is the tip of the iceberg. The middle school report alone for the 7th graders that took it is about 140 pages long. The layers go very, very deep. We could be here hours and hours and hours looking at just one component of the survey. So I just want to stress that this is our first public look. We are doing a snapshot and we're really trying to capture the big picture and really how we can leverage this data to, first of all, celebrate the incredible things happening in our schools. And when you see some of these results, it is really humbling to think about what it's taken for our staff to generate that kind of energy from our students, given the circumstances of this year. But then also, too, there's very clear areas for continued growth and focus. And we see this as an ongoing process of discovery, and no way does any one survey ever capture all of it. So I just really want to start by saying that. Okay, so first of all, and this, I really do love how, the talk about reopening schools and all the momentum that we're building into next year that we saw in our last presentation. That really is what this is about too. Wellness is the foundation for everything we do as educators, as a community. And it isn't just for children, it's for the adults as well. We need to take care of each other, take care of ourselves. And we can learn and improve through ongoing feedback from students, staff, and community. That kind of transparency doesn't hurt us, it only helps us. Because if anything, we want to make sure that people aren't hiding their struggles, that a kid isn't going to keep it a secret, or a family isn't going to share with us when something's a problem. We want a culture of openness, because then we can address it in the open. Forget about a pandemic. We know that this is the case even in normal times. So it's measures like this, which are our big survey vehicles, and the data from across the state, county, other districts, all of that's publicly available. But what matters is what we ultimately are able to do with it as a group of adults working together as a team, and that includes the parents as well. So just a quick overview. These surveys are driven by California Department of Education's, as it says here, commitment to helping schools promote the success of cognitive, social, emotional, and physical development of all students, and creating more positive, engaging school environments. and these results inform our LCAP. So it's really exciting to be able to look at something that's very holistic. Yes, there's information on the academic learning experience, but there's also information on the school facilities and the cleanliness. There's questions on bullying, on school safety, on racial sensitivity. It breaks down student experience based on gender, based on race and ethnicity. Like I said, it really goes deep. But what you're going to see tonight again is more of a summary of the big points. This again is it's easily found on the website. There's a public link, the state dashboard for healthy kids. Not that we're about comparing ourselves with anyone else, but it is possible to see how our students and schools are faring on these different questions relative to other areas throughout Marin, other areas throughout the state. And our current results won't be updated until November 2021. That process takes a bit. So super quick, we employed a couple different survey modules. The core module for both 5th and 7th grade gets into student connectedness. That's a theme throughout this entire evening. Learning, engagement, and motivation, and attendance. For 5th grade, there was also the social emotional health module, and also the TUPE, tobacco use prevention education, which is a state requirement. So, you know, we start looking at what is the exposure our 5th graders have to drugs, alcohol, tobacco products, which is very important for us to understand. And then in addition to that, in 7th grade, there was a school climate module. And then the participation was really, really exciting. 72% of our 5th grade was able to participate, and that is with active parent consent. And again, in a year where, you know, there's been just a lot of chaos and coming back to school and just all that we've been managing, I really want to thank every 5th grade teacher, all the principals, for taking time to do this, and to the parents for supporting it. For the 7th grade, it's a passive consent, and we had an 86% response rate. So kudos to the White Hill administration and teaching team to get a vast majority of their students represented. And this is a full 20% of our entire district student body, which is a really robust figure, you know, when it comes to looking at our kids' experience. All right, so we just, again, quickly want to go over our 5th grade results. So we did separate it. Rather than do one big pot of all 5th and 7th grade results together, we thought it'd be good to separate by grade level. Now you see Miss Horkey out in her outdoor classroom up at Hidden Valley doing math. I think that was the lesson of the day. Looks like fun to me. So digging in, again, these are big picture items here. In the core module, 79% of kids indicate staff care about them, listen to them, and make an effort to get to know them. 77% report that the schools take positive action to counteract bullying behaviors. And in saying that, the survey is indicating that's a strong positive indication. On a lot of questions, there's kind of like a don't really know, sort of like neutral. So to get upwards of 80% positive for anything is pretty extraordinary. 82% of students indicate having a high degree of academic motivation. 90% of students report staff have high expectations and communicate positively about their successes. So not just, I expect you to do well, but messages of you can do well and I believe in you. And so there's a lot of questions that are tailored very specifically to gauge how students feel and perceive staff support of their potential. This is very powerful. 82% of students indicate having a high degree of school connectedness, and 91% of students indicate feeling safe at school. Again, that we always want to see improvement there, but anytime that you are moving up into the 90% realm, there's a lot to be excited about and proud of. I just want to show just a couple examples of what it looks like in the actual report. Do you do things to be helpful at school? Meaning, this is sort of more of that school connectedness realm. And you can see hugely positive indicators. 4% of kids say no, never. But the rest of kids, some of the time to all the time, are looking to do things to be helpful. That's pretty cool. So a very high degree of student engagement and helping out in their school settings. And really, wonderful questions that get right to the core and talk right to those little, 10 and 11-year-olds. Are you happy to be at this school? And the results there too, absolutely extraordinary. 80% of kids indicating a very vociferous yes. And of course, we always want to work to find those students that aren't feeling as positive. But again, when we get survey results, it's not just about digging out where the problems are, but also let's identify our successes. And I hope every teacher and staff member that sees this, I hope they feel a sense of ownership and pride in what this is showing us. Couple more questions before moving on to the older kids. Do the teachers and other grown-ups give you a chance to solve school problems? I love this question. And this is exciting. So, basically 90% of kids are saying, yeah, to some degree, we get a chance to, kind of think on a bigger school level. It's very cool. And then more kind of in that realm of climate and conflict resolution. Does your school help students resolve conflicts with one another? Lots of positive feedback there. Does your school teach students to understand how other students think and feel? This perspective taking, such a huge skill in life. And something that if we want our kids to take away any skill from their public education, this is up in the top 3. And again, really extraordinarily positive results. More, I think, exciting information that we're getting on the culture across our 4 elementary schools. And now moving into the drugs, alcohol, and tobacco exposure. 0 students in this particular survey reported having smoked a cigarette or vaped in the last 30 days. So I take that as being a positive. And then interestingly too, and again, I'm cherry picking here a little bit, but 22% report having had 1 or 2 sips of alcohol in their lifetime. So I think that, what we're seeing and what we kind of know from being parents and educators is that, this is kind of the age as you're sort of approaching middle school where that exposure to drugs, alcohol, tobacco, things of that nature is starting to kind of emerge a bit. And so, of course, our job as a public institution is to meet that moment with education, with support, and making sure that our kids are having the opportunity to feel supported and to know that, that they're not alone in this journey into young adulthood. And having worked at our local wonderful high school, now named Archie Williams High School, formerly Drake, of course, we know that effort to continue educating kids doesn't stop once they leave Ross Valley schools. This is the last thought that I'll share for the elementary schools. Again, tip of the iceberg. 90% of students report feeling thankful to go to their school. What we're going to do, and Michelle and Autumn are going to dig into the middle school survey results, is as a faculty, really take time to analyze and look at areas of strength and areas of needed attention with this survey, and also to, of course, involve our parent community in generating solutions and also continuing so many of the great things we see reflected here. Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to Autumn and Michelle. There you see a beautiful panorama of White Hill Middle at full throttle.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. Just tell me when to advance and I will.
Sure.
Yeah.
So just a little history about California Healthy Kids Survey. It looks at the climate, it looks at safety and student wellness, and then you look at the resiliency of the kids by looking at the questions. So our job is to really just analyze the data that's being presented, and we look at the health risks, we look at the behaviors, and then we look at the school connectedness that we have, the school climate, and the overall well-being of the students. So as Julia put it earlier, it's seeing the kids for who and where they are. And this is a nice instrument for that. So when we look at the 7th grade results, I'm gonna have Eric, let's hit the next slide. We're gonna look at 71% indicate that staff care about them, listen to them, and make an effort to get to know them. I think that's really good indicator for our kids. The 67% of students report having a high degree of academic motivation. So again, we're looking at 219 students out of 254 for 7th grade. And then the next screen is 82% of students report that staff have high expectations and communicate positively about their successes. That's a really great number to see. And 61% of students have difficulty maintaining focus on their schoolwork. I think this is really indicative of the position that they've been in, being, at home and distant learning, and then coming back to school and hybrid. And so they've had so much transition. There has been trauma with some of the students. It's something that support all the way around is needed. So we'll go to the next screen, Eric. So school climate, 87% of students state that they feel safe in school. This is a really great number. My background is working in Vallejo Unified and Richmond School District, and our numbers were never this high for California Healthy Kids Survey. And oftentimes the questions related towards gang violence and a lot different atmospheres. So we live in a really beautiful place and the kids appreciate where they are. So that's really wonderful. 79% of students believe that school staff would help them if they experience bullying. That's something to be proud of.
I'm going to jump in here about the social emotional well-being. We're seeing that 79% of our students state that they have strong peer connections at school. So they feel like they have friends who they can reach out to and talk to about their problems. And we know that trusted adult relationships are super important, but at this age, having peer relationships is also really, really important to their overall well-being. 85% of students report high feelings of self-efficacy. So they have trust in themselves, trust that they know where to go when they're experiencing problems, that they have faith that they can work out their problems. 68% of our students report feeling optimistic about their future. Then we do have 7% of our students reported serious suicidal ideations in the past 12 months. That's, like Michelle had said previously, indicative of where we are, but this is an alarming number. We can see that there's about 15 students, and that's something that Michelle and I take a look at, and it's one of the biggest areas of focus for us when we're looking at this data, along with the 25% of our students who report chronic levels of hopelessness and or sadness. 60% of our students report healthy coping mechanisms and problem-solving skills. And so that is very exciting to see, because we want our students to know that when they have these feelings, how do they handle them and where do they go? So those are the biggest things that we focus on when we're looking at the data. And then we did have a bit of a breakdown by race and ethnicity. And so when we were talking about the trauma-informed approach and the #1 productive factor being adult supports, we want to make sure that all of our students are seeing and feeling like they have adult support. So we can see that our Hispanic and Latinx population reported 81%, our white population 94%, and our mixed 2 or more reported 90%. So those are high levels all around, but ones that we want to focus on. And then drug and alcohol use, 3% of our students reported using marijuana, 5% any of the above. that is rather low numbers, which is great. And then when we're looking about with areas of growth and concern, we want to continue that emphasis on trusted adult relationships. We want to increase our efforts to include and engage BIPOC and Latinx students and families, and a focus on staff wellness. And we additionally want to make sure that we're reaching those students who are experiencing the chronic levels of sadness and hopelessness.
So one thing too that is really extraordinary, and having come from a middle school setting the last 6 years, is it's natural even from 6th to 8th grade to see survey results come back a little bit less positive as the age goes up. 6th graders are all hugs and, oh, we love everybody. And 8th graders might be a little bit more guarded. But to see those kinds of results for 7th grade, you know, which is, I think, universally recognized to be a real pivotal transitional year, you know, really kind of that shift from childhood to young adulthood is really powerful. So Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris, who's California's first ever Surgeon General, sums all this up perfectly, and not just our presentation, but I think the one previous to ours as well. Trusted relationships are the #1 antidote to stress and adversity. And of course, our charge as public educators is to generate a climate in every one of our schools where students can experience that with each other and with our staff. And because we're human beings too, it feels good for us as adults to have those trusting relationships with each other as professionals and with our community partners and parents, because we need to make sure that we're helping our fellow adults be a little bit happier and a little bit lighter on their feet after an incredibly taxing year plus. Gauging the student experience throughout the year is really, really key. And I want to give my immense respect and kudos to what the White Hill team has done, not at the end of the school year. You know, this is cool to look at in May, but all year, the weekly check-ins that they've been doing, those students that are having suicidal ideations or experiencing chronic sadness, they've discovered who some of those students are because they're doing those proactive check-ins in their advisories. They're making sure that every single week there's mechanisms by which students can reach out for support. The community circles is a powerful model that they're going to continue. Suicide prevention lessons, anxiety and coping skills lessons. And then also too, something that we're going to focus on as a district is not just doing the Healthy Kids Survey in the spring, but smaller, more localized surveys that really target how we're doing. You know what? And our first one should be coming in October, because after 2 months of school, it's a great time to be checking in to see how we're doing. We don't want it to just be at the end of the year. And Autumn, Michelle, I want you guys to talk a little bit about this.
Sure. Well, the one thing to recognize is, like Eric had put, it's collaboration. And as you can see, we have programs in place at our school level, but there's also programs in place that are not only at our MCOE, the Marin County Office of Education, and Marin County to also be involved in. So when you look at the continued trauma-informed practices work by Autumn, she did a great job and had 2 staff meetings. I don't know, Autumn, do you want to touch on this some more?
I mean, I think it's been touched on, but I think that it's a huge factor when we're moving into the next school year. We need to acknowledge that our staff, students, and families have experienced a trauma, and that may or may not present itself. You know, trauma tends to, trauma can wait up to 3 to 5 years before it shows itself. So we want to continue that work. It is very important.
Yeah. And thank you for recognizing it as a strategy and working with our kids this next year. Okay.
And also too in the realm of parent education, because again, learning and living doesn't stop when the school day is over. Why don't you share this first one with Annie Egan?
She was fantastic. She came to us. She's the founder of the Worth and Wellness. And she presented, Is It Normal? Adolescent Development Through the Middle School Years, and kind of really helped lay out to parents expectations of middle school years and how to best support their kids positively so that they build relationships and trust so that they can be there to support their kids when they really need it. It was a fantastic presentation. It was very exciting to be there.
Wonderful. And then something, there'll be details to come, but there's a group of middle schools in Southern Marin, and that's going to include White Hill Middle School, of course, are going to come together for a parenting webinar with a very well-known speaker, author, and parenting expert. And that's going to be in the early fall, potentially late August, early September. Details are still being worked out, but of course there'll be a big communication campaign. And it really is targeting middle school. The challenges there are quite unique. And especially in these, what I would say, fragile times, as we, move back to quote unquote normalcy, we understand, as Autumn says, that we're all carrying a lot of weight. Our kids are carrying trauma. And so rather than just fast forward to let's just be back to pretending like it's all right again, we need to be attentive and mindful. So also something too that we did as a district back in February, and of course it was a bit different. We hadn't fully gotten back to 5-day-a-week school. But Global School Play Day, which started right here in Marin County, is a day a year dedicated to unstructured play. And if you remember back from Julia talking, it is something that Linda Darling Hammond on our State Board of Education, a researcher, author, understands as, one of the foundations of good learning is play. And the Global School Play Day team surprised the world by saying that there's going to be actually a September edition. So that date is to be determined. But the idea is to help schools around the world get the school year started with celebration and really helping build that sense of community. I'm not going to read all of this, but this is from a paper from the American Academy of Pediatrics in 2019. And I'm just going to read to you one line. Furthermore, play supports the formation of the safe, stable, and nurturing relationships with all caregivers that children need to thrive. So when we look at all of these different avenues of support in the classroom, out on the playground, out in the community, we know that play is something that is a through line. And we just really want to thank our trustees, our superintendent, who has so robustly and energetically gotten behind all these endeavors to focus on the whole child and wellness first, because we know that that's what's essential. And we promise as a team to share further reflections on the immense trove of data from this Healthy Kids Survey as we move into the fall, because we still have a lot to learn from it. And if our trustees have any questions, we will be happy to engage.
Marie here. I have a comment and a question. The first comment, and I want to thank the YT team again for having organized that parenting session with Annie. Again, that was just out of this world. It was so good. I did it twice, one with the high school and one with the middle school. That was definitely, although that was not exactly the STEM program, but absolutely thank you for doing that. It was very helpful. And I look forward to see a little bit more of the trend of the survey, to see what it was like last time we administered. I know that in general that data, we have it in 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th grade, and we follow the cohort. This time, because we kind of let drop last year, we won't be able to follow the cohort, but I still want to see would be interesting to see how our current 7th grader are feeling as opposed to the 7th grader 3 years ago, just to kind of, not on everything, but on a couple of those kind of key engagement and happiness and joy metrics to make sure we are celebrating rightfully, not just because they are high, because they might have been even much higher before, they might have been bad. Just kind of, I want to look into that. Not right now, but that's something that I would be interested in hearing more about.
Thank you.
And I noticed on one of the slides, it said that the data was going to go up on November. Is that when the live link in November? Not until November, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
A lot of districts have not even administered that survey quite yet. I know that for a fact.
All right.
but we won't say who.
No.
Any other questions from any of the
I
trustees?
just wanted to thank you for such a comprehensive presentation. I really appreciate a lot of time and effort that's gone into it.
Thank you.
I am hoping that we can maybe take this recording and have it on our website. It'd be great for other people who might not have been able to be here tonight, parents and others, to go back and reflect on it and know that it's been done and some of the results, because it is very appreciative that this is being done. And as people hear about it, they might want to, oh, wait a minute, I missed that. And I'd like to hear more about that. So hopefully, I know we've done that with some of the other presentations, but it would be nice maybe to put this one up as well. Thank you.
Great. I've made a note of that. I'll talk with Sean tomorrow. And just want to thank you so much, Autumn, Michelle, and Eric, for the presentation tonight and for coming and all of the work that you do to ensure that all of our students at White Hill are safe and healthy, and that whatever needs they have are being addressed. So that comprehensive approach that you all take there is wonderful. It's truly supportive of the kids, and I know that they're getting good care.
Thank you.
You're here.
What a fun bunch, by the way. I really enjoyed it before the recording. It's great.
All right. Okay. Well, let's keep rolling here. We've got item number 3 in our presentations, and thank you all so much for being here. And we've got consent and business. Now we've got our consent and our business and all that kind of stuff. It's not nearly as engaging, but it's definitely as important. Just a little bit of a different topics. So let's move on to the presentation, which is the recommended approval of declaration of need for fully qualified educators. Marcy, I believe you're